Hello and welcome back to Throttle Thrasher. Today I'm going to talk about all the problems I've experienced with my Zontes ZT125 over the last year, starting with the least worrying problem and least severe problem, going obviously to the worst problem that I've had, which you should definitely stick around for. I've had a lot of messages this winter with people experiencing the same problem. It did mean the bike was off the road for a couple of weeks because it's electrical, so definitely stick around for that, like I say. But we'll get straight into it. The first problem I had was within a couple of months of owning this bike, to be fair. It was pretty soon after getting it. Every time I'd wash it, the bike would cut out. The bike would cut out. It'd be really weird after I'd wash it. Just with a pressure washer, mind. It was all right with putting water on the bike, but it did not like a pressure washer at all. So yeah, it turned out that the HT lead was faulty that I had when I got the bike. I'm not too sure what was wrong with it. I didn't replace it under warranty. I literally just ordered a new HT lead and coil pack, fitted that to the bike, and it's been fine ever since. Because one day it got really, really bad, and as I pulled apart the HT lead, it was all broken up inside. So I managed to bodge it back together because it's not like a normal HT lead. I don't know what the proper name for it is, but a normal HT lead, obviously, if you're not getting a very good spark to the plug and the cap, you can cut it down. Obviously, you cut down the wire a little bit and you'll see all the copper wire inside, and obviously you just screw your cap back in and you get a better spark. That's not the case with these. I don't know what the name of them are, but it's got a different type of lead in there. So it's like, it's not like copper wire. It's another bit of wire, really finely wound around like a piece of elastic, sort of. It's really weird. It's nothing like I've ever seen before with these, like with HT leads. Usually it's just a bit of copper, like I say, and you cut it down, put it back in, see if you're getting better spark and stuff. But that wasn't the case. So like I say, I had to just replace the HT lead. Never had any problems since. So if you're having a similar problem when you're pressure washing and washing the bike, then maybe it's something to do with your HT lead, because the way I knew it was definitely that is I used to take the HT lead off, I used to dry the plug, and then it'd be all right. And then I think through taking it on and off so many times to do that, that's then weakened the actual lead itself and then caused more problems, hence having to replace it. So like I say, £40 fix, done. That was the end of that. Moving on, the next problem that I experienced with the bike would be the wires setting on fire. Some wires decided to short out one day on this. If you want to see more on this, I've uploaded a previous YouTube video on what happened, and I actually show you the wires, because which ones had burnt and how I put them back together and soldered them and all stuff like that. So yeah, go and watch that video if you want to see more on it. But basically, long and short of the story is, just under here, there's a clump of wires that basically run up under here, which I'll show you in a second. And then they were out of the factory there, cable tied to the frame up here. Unfortunately, because they were cable tied to the frame, it meant they had no movement. So when I was going over bumps and things like that, I'm guessing it was rubbing against the piece of metal on the frame, which basically made it obviously wear through. And then 5 of the wires got burnt and melted together and broke, and it just cut out one day. I lost the fuel pump wouldn't engage, the starter button wouldn't work, the indicators wouldn't work, it was blowing fuses every time I'd put a fresh one in, just all sorts of stuff. So I knew it was something electrical. Managed to get the bike home, and then like I said, I looked under here and pressed the start button and seen a bit of smoke come up from under here. I'll show you what I'm on about. Get in here, boys. So basically, this is the clump of wires that I'm on about. You'll see it comes up from up under here, basically out of the main wiring loom, splits off, and then yeah, that hole there was a cable tie going through it to that, so they were really tight to the frame. So basically what happened is that I just rubbed against the frame loads, broke through there, and then yeah, 5 of the wires had got burnt and damaged. So like I said, I soldered all the wires back together, bridged up the ones that I needed to with extra wire because they were coming up a bit short, soldered them, obviously taped them all up individually, taped them up as a pack, or as like a unit again. And then I did used to have a little bit of rubber that I put on here, because that edge is quite sharp. I don't know if anyone else has noticed it, but the edge is quite sharp on that. So I put a bit of tape and some rubber on there, but the rubber's come off now, so I could do with replacing that. But yeah, like I said, that was one problem that I had. I put all the wires back together because they're all color coded, obviously, so it's just, idiot proof, well, fairly idiot proof. So just put the wires back together and solder, and that was pretty much all I did for that. And that did solve the problem, which was all right. Next thing we're going to talk about is this is more maintenance than like the bike actually going wrong. My rear swing arm bearing probably went within 4 or 5 months of getting the bike. The bottom right one down in there, that one's gone in there, so the bike twitches a little bit side to side. I've ridden it like this for about 8,000 miles, which I know is really bad, but I did call up Zontes and they said they wanted £140 for the swing arm bearing for one side. So, or I think it might have been the pair, but still, that's a lot of money for a bearing and a bushing. So I didn't pay that. I'm going to take the bearing out, measure it myself, and measure the bushing, and just obviously order my own for a separate company that specialises in bearings and bushings. Basically, it'll be a lot cheaper to do that, or get bushings made up if necessary. So yeah, I'd say that's more maintenance than anything going wrong on the bike. I can't really complain about that. The next problem that I experience with the bike, like I say, this is the more severe problem I've had. I've had a few people message about this over the winter, but I've come to find out that these bikes, unfortunately, do not like water. Shock. Unfortunately, they've not made, I'll show you in detail again in a minute what I'm talking about. Unfortunately, underneath the seat, where half the electronics is and the ECU under here, it's not very watertight. So there's like holes all up through here, holes up through here. Water can go all up through here. If you've got a tail tidy like me, water can go up through the bottom bit there. Yeah, it's just not very watertight at all. So water can really easily get in there. Like I say, I've then come to realise these don't like water. So it started out with, I was riding the bike one day and I lost ABS and the speedo. Just stopped working. I was working, so I didn't have a chance to look at it. And then a couple of days later, I came out one morning and the bike just didn't start. I think this was back in December when we had that really cold, like -4, 5, 6 nights or whatever they were. So it was really cold, but yeah, the bike wouldn't start. When it did start, eventually, it was running really weird. It wouldn't rev out properly, or as soon as you'd rev it, it would cut out. It was just being really weird. Like, you know when something's not right with your bike. So I was racking my brain. Like I said, I managed to get it started and I was going to ride it to my garage. On the way to the garage, thinking it's going to be off the road for a couple of weeks, I thought, oh, I'll give it a wash, make it look shiny whilst it's sat away. Stupid idea. Don't do it. If yours is playing up, don't wash it and risk it, because you'd be an idiot like me and you'll break down at the garage. But it's sort of good that I did that, because that's how I found out what the problem was. Because basically I pressure washed the bike, it wouldn't start. So I was racking my brain, going over the whole bike. What I did was I actually took out, I don't know, I'll show you in more detail in a minute, but just under here is your like main fuse board with your 5 like essential fuses. So your starter, your ABS and speedo, indicators, lights and horn and all stuff like that on the left hand side. Basically, I took the starter fuse out and dried it with a lighter, and then the bike started straight up, which then obviously meant to me that the fuse board was getting wet, damp, whatever. So, that was the answer I needed. So I took the bike to my garage. I had a look at it. Like I said, I'll bring the camera over now and show you what I'm on about, because it's quite hard to see. I'll see if I can even get one out for you in a minute. So basically, like I say, if you're standing at the front of the bike looking back like this, and the fuse board comes out like that, not twisted or wonky, then like I say, you've got your starter and fuel pump on this fuse here. They're all 10s, they're just different color 10s. You've then got your ABS and speedo, both on the same fuse. I don't know why. Because like when I want to do stoppies, I lose the speedo basically, so I've always got to put it back in before I go back on the road. Well, I don't have to, but it's just shouldn't you really? But no face, no case. And then these two, like I say, are lights and indicators. But basically, right, long and short of it, what had happened is in there it got wet, because up under there is not watertight at all. Like I say, water goes up through there, water goes up through there, water can come up through here, water can come up through here as well. So loads of places. So basically, what I did was just under here, you can't really see, you can get a tiny little flathead screwdriver in under there. You push a little clip to the side and all of these pull out. I obviously did it one at a time because I didn't want to muddle up where they went, so it was a bit of a slow process, but I took out every single one individually, pulled them out from the bottom, obviously took all the fuses out and chucked them because they were rusty, and starting to go rusty. And then took out every single connector where the fuse plugs in and cleaned it with some sandpaper. And then I used waterproof grease, put all the fuses back in with waterproof grease, and the bike started straight up and has been fine since. Since having this problem, I've looked into it a bit more. I have found out that I found out that some people's is actually more severe than that. A few of the people I've mentioned this to have done it and they've actually said it's worked. Like one guy literally sprayed some ACF 50 on his fuse board and it literally started straight up and it was fine. And he went out for a ride and I haven't heard from him since. So I'm assuming he's fine. But unfortunately, I have heard that some people, if it's not this, and it's actually their fuse board, which I can't show you because it's in such a shit place. You can just see the little like shiny silver bit there. Just under there is your main fuse board. I have heard that to do with the damp and the water also. Not so much water getting in, but because the ECU board is metal, or the ECU box is metal, basically when it's really cold and going, and then you're riding the bike and all this shit, it's basically getting hot and cold constantly, which has which is causing condensation to build up in the bike, causing condensation to build up, in the ECU. And then people having ECU failure, it's burning out inside. Like I say, mine wasn't that severe. Mine was the fuse clip starting to corrode. So, like I say, long and short of it, if you're having similar issues, I'd start with your fuse board and do what I just said about. Take out every single fuse, clean it with sandpaper, maybe a bit of ACF 50, or you can buy waterproof grease from Euro car parts. It's 16 quid for a little pot, but like I say, just dip each fuse in, put it back in. I did think about making some sort of like cover to go over the main fuse board, but that's like by the time this goes back on the road, it'll be nice weather again, so there's not much point. So that's like a next winter thing if I've still got it. But yeah, like I said, process of elimination. If you're having similar problems, I'd start with that and do what I just said about. If not, then unfortunately, it's more than likely going to be your ECU, which means getting hold of Zontes and trying to obviously sort an ECU under warranty. It's piss easy to get the ECU off. It's literally just take the side, this panel off, drop that out, drop the bottom off, and the ECU is just bolted in underneath. So it's just 2 Allen keys, literally unplugs, nice and easy. I did take my ECU off to make sure it was watertight, but I tried pulling it off and it was still sealed shut. So I put all the screws back in with waterproof sealant as well, or waterproof grease, just to assure that that was fine. And I also dried out the ECU for a day or for like a couple of hours on the radiator, just so I knew it was bone dry inside. And like I say, ever since then, no problems with the bike. So yeah, if you're experiencing similar problems, let me know, because it's interesting. Like I say, I think I've had 8 messages with people having similar problems to this, with the ZT125U, and then the CAF Racer one, and the one that's pretty much the same as this but with crash bars. I can't remember what model that is. But yeah, the only other problem I've started having with this bike, thinking about it since owning it, which I've got to sort still, is this rear seat has stopped clipping in. I'm not 100% sure why. It was fine. Like I say, it goes down, it just doesn't clip in, so it could literally just fall off if I go down the road. So obviously I'm not risking it at the minute. It's a bit of a weird one. I think, like I say, this is going to be due to water as well, or I've maybe caught a wire when I put this bottom piece back on. It's either that, or it's yeah, like I say, it goes on, it just doesn't clip in anymore. And when you press the ignition on, you should obviously be able to press the button and you'd hear the locking mechanism. You can hear it get to like the relay for it, but you don't hear it get to the actual locking mechanism. Speaking of that as well, I have had this stop working a few times on the button. It's fine at the minute. It's done it twice basically since owning the bike, where it's just stopped, and what I've had to do is press it and do it at the same time, and it's still always open. But every time it's stopped opening on the button, all I've literally done is grabbed some WD-40 and I've literally just opened it up, sprayed some WD in there, and then I've literally just worked it in, and that's solved it every time. I was hoping that would obviously do the same for that, but I'm guessing it's really gunked up, or I've caught a wire, like I say. So if you're experiencing similar problems there, like I said, bit of WD-40 for that, and that should solve it. And I will give you an update on what this is, just in case anyone else is having similar problems. Like I say, if any of this was useful, or anyone wants any help, or info, or any more info, like I say, let me know. I've had phone calls with like my subscribers and like people that follow me on Instagram, like trying to help them solve what problems they're having with their bikes. And a lot of them, like I say, have been very similar to this. So if it is useful, give it a thumbs up and a like if that's all right. Let me know if the quality is better. Like I say, with this mic, I would film it outside, but it's absolutely fucking hammering it down. So hence being crammed in this tiny little unit. So yeah, like I said, that's the end of that. Just moving on quickly, if you've got a spare second. As you will see from the face and the hoodie, I like this new brand. Let me tell you about it. It's called Trust No One Clothing brand. Sort of partnering up with them at the minute, me and the missus are. They're called Trust No One Clothing. It's a brand that started in 2021. The guy does all the prints himself on this and this, all the prints on the t-shirts. We've got chest bags, obviously the balaclavas, all different colours. Basically, I'll put a link to the website in my description. And if you use my discount code THROTTLETHRASHER10, all in capital letters, you get 10% off. Everything's really reasonably priced anyway. Like the hoodie was like, I think 20 quid or something, 25 quid. The chest bag was 20 quid, which I highly recommend. They're sick. Yeah, it's all just really good value, really good quality. And like I say, you can save yourself 10% now if you use my code THROTTLETHRASHER10, all capitals. So hope to see some more people supporting and wearing this soon. And yeah, it's Throttle Thrasher out.